Hi, I'm Gita Buckley and I'm the founder of Uptown Drapes. We are going to show you today on this video how to install your very own new rods and drapes all on your own. Installing drapes can be a little intimidating and kind of scary, but it's easy to learn and we're going to show you how to do it. So you're not going to have any problems doing it on your own. So please watch this video from beginning to end and we're going to take you through the process so that you're going to get everything properly installed and looking beautiful. You may have ordered a different style of rod and bracket than the one we're actually showing today, but all of the principles are going to be the same with all of our rods and brackets. So you have nothing to worry about, just keep that in mind as you're watching this segment. Before you begin, you want to make sure you have all of the proper tools and supplies ready to go for your install. In order to install your drapes, you'll need the following tools and supplies: a drill, a measuring tape, a level, pencil, painters or masking tape, the included hardware with your rods, which would be the little Allen wrench and screws, and then the package of hardware that we're going to send you from Uptown Drapes. You will also need 2 sturdy ladders and 2 helpers to hang the rods and drapes, and an open space to lay out your rods. Begin by opening your brand new drapes. If you're going to do this with a knife or scissors, be extra careful not to dig in too deep because you don't want to slit any of your fabric. You'll also notice that when you're unwrapping them, that they've been folded and creased really nice and wrapped with paper. That keeps the wrinkles and any unwanted folds that come from shipping to come into your home. Your drapes are going to look really good when you open them up. Lay your rods just below the window in relationship to where you're going to be actually hanging your rod. Next, find your center point of your window with your tape measure and then mark that center point with your masking tape, and that's going to be your reference point for the rest of the install. Next, find the center point of your rod with your tape measure and mark that with painter's tape also. That's going to line up with the center mark that you just put above your window. That will be your frame of reference for where you center your rod during the install process. In case you have 2 rods, you don't need to mark the center point of those rods. The center is basically going to be where those 2 rods line up together, and we'll explain that further down the line in the video. Slip the finial onto the left side of the rod and use the Allen wrench and the teeny little bolt to secure it safely. Count the number of drapery pins that are on the back side of your left panel, and then -1. In this case, we've got 10 drapery pins. We're going to put 9 rings onto the rod. Take the correct amount of rings and slide them onto your rod. Carefully place your rod across the 2 ladders and start hanging your drapery onto the rings. Leave the far left pin off of a ring. This is going to be your return. This will make sense later on in the video. With bracket in hand, have both your helpers carry up the rod carefully to the desired height. We recommend doing about a ½ inch of clearance on the floor from the floor to the bottom of your drape. With a pencil, gently mark where you want your bracket to be on the wall. We recommend the bracket having a 1-inch space between the finial and the edge of the bracket. Carefully bring the rod down and have it rest on the 2 ladders. Make sure it doesn't fall off. And then drill the necessary holes that you just marked with your drill, putting your brackets in place on the wall. Use the anchors that we provided and the screws. We want this to be really strong and secure so it doesn't come out of your wall. If you're lucky enough to hit a stud, you won't need to use our anchors. Now it's time for the next bracket. In this case, it's going to be the center bracket. Set the left of your rod into the secured bracket that you've already installed. From this point, you're going to want to make sure your rod is level. We recommend using a level, but we also use our eyes. So the reason we like to use the level and our eyeball is because sometimes ceilings and floors and woodwork around the windows aren't exactly straight. So we use our level as a guide, and then we stand back from a distance and make sure that that level truly is straight. Once you've determined where that rod is level, mark your bracket like you did before. Once again, take your rod out of the brackets and put them back onto your ladders, being really careful that it doesn't fall off. And now you can secure your second bracket. Now we need to insert the splice. Your splice is either going to come welded onto your rod or it's going to be something that you need to put in on your own. This window is wider than 106 inches, and so our rod needs to be spliced in the center so that we can get the required width that we want for the rod. Now you can hang up your left drape into your secured brackets. Now we can work on hanging the right side of the drapery. So take the same amount of rings as you used on the left side and put those onto your rod. Slip your finial onto your rod and tighten that as well. Carefully set your rod onto your ladders and grab your right drapery panel. Just like we did before, start inserting the pins into the rings. Remember to leave the far right-hand pin off of a ring. That's going to be your return on the right-hand side, and we'll explain that later on. With bracket in hand, lift your rod up and slip it into the splice. We're going to make sure your rod is level. So just like we did before, hold it up with the level and stand back and eyeball it as well. Keep in mind that you want the same distance from the bottom of the drape to the floor as you have on the left-hand side. Once you're at that desired point, have your helper mark his bracket. Remove the rod from the splice and set it down on your ladder and secure that final bracket. Now you can bring up the final portion of your rod with your drapes. Slip it into the splice and set it down into the bracket. Okay, now carefully lift up your rod on both sides and slip your ring past the bracket so that it sits in between the bracket and the finial on that 1-inch space. Now we're going to talk about your returns, and the reason a return is so important is because it finishes off your drape. It turns the corner, it hides the gap, it hides the bracket, and it just looks super custom. In order to attach your drapery to the wall and make that return, you're going to take that last pin out and move it just a little closer to the edge of the drape. So now you're going to take that portion of your drapery, hold it against the wall so that it's level and square and looks really nice. Then you're going to take your pencil and reach behind and just mark the top of where that pin sits on the wall. Now that you have that pencil mark, insert your screw into the wall at that same spot, leaving about 1/8 of an inch gap between the wall and the screw. Now you can take that pin and hook it right onto the screw. Tighten it just enough so that it doesn't move. Your final step now is to tighten your brackets so that your rod is secure. Guess what? You've just completed your very own drapery install. Now you get to sit back and enjoy how beautiful these look. Now that you've watched the steps to installing your own drape, if you're still a little bit nervous about doing it on your own, you can get on homeadvisor.com and look for a blind or drapery installer that's local in your area and call them up and have them come over and do it for you. If you want your drapes to look picture perfect, refer to our next video that talks about the care of your drapes and the tricks that we've done to make ours look awesome.